Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has issued a demand that Mitch McConnell's staff has spent 6 weeks trying to avoid. Show a video that Mitch McConnell can actually speak, show that he can think, show that he is not in some kind of semi comatose or partially vegetative state. Now, is it conspiratorial or not to say, even if we acknowledge that the pictures of Mitch McConnell released from his rehab, 2 pictures now, are real. We don't know if they're real. There are even Republicans who say these pictures either aren't real or they're old. But let's say these are real pictures. Can it be the case that Mitch McConnell was sort of propped up and he is barely aware of what's going on around him? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not saying that that is the case. I'm not saying it is a sort of weekend at Bernie's situation where he is barely cognizant of what's going on around him, but his eyes are open and they propped him up and they took a still image. A still image is substantively very different than, hey, Mitch McConnell here. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm looking forward to getting back to work for my constituents. A video where he actually speaks would be very, very different. Now, are some of the people who are insisting it's all fake going to just say, oh, the video is AI? Maybe. But we can analyze whether the video is AI. We sort of have the technology, at least with some degree of certainty, to determine that. And so Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is now saying the time has come for that to happen. Show that you can speak. He has now been hospitalized 40-something days. He's missed every Senate vote since the 11th of July. He was reportedly found unconscious following a fall in Washington on June 14th. He was hospitalized. I guess he developed mild pneumonia. This is what they're saying while he was in the hospital. And he has been moved into rehab at the hospital, and doctors recently said he is not cleared to go back to work in the Senate. Now, what's missing from that is that the 911 call indicates that there was a cardiac event. And what they are not saying when they say he fell is you can fall for a lot of reasons. You can slip and fall. You can fall because you had a stroke. You can fall because you had a heart attack. You can fall because you had a vasovagal episode and you passed out, as famously happened to me on that incredible flight from Italy back to the United States almost a decade ago. This is not about that, though. They haven't said the reason for the fall. And if the 911 call is accurate, that the fall was precipitated by a cardiac event, that's a very different situation. We have also, as we see the staged photographs of Mitch McConnell sitting with his wife, Elaine Chao, we've gotten every reaction to this under the sun. We read the statement of how the statement was written in Mitch's voice. I'm meeting with staff and discussing legislation and looking forward to returning. Anybody could write that. And what we don't have is an independently verifiable live moving video of Mitch McConnell speaking. Can he speak? Governor Beshear has had enough. He said in his letter, I'm addressing this letter to Senator McConnell under the assumption that he is capable of reading and responding verbally and not incapacitated by means of consciousness or cognition. That is an extraordinary opening to a letter written to a sitting U.S. senator. And Beshear says, I'm writing to you personally, but I cannot establish whether you currently have the cognitive capacity even to read. And he says, if Mitch McConnell can't respond, his staff has to be honest with Kentucky. Now, Beshear acknowledges McConnell has the right to some medical privacy, and I acknowledge that as well. Of course he does. Nobody is demanding the full medical records or the details of every test and treatment that he's receiving. But an elected senator in one of 100 seats can't disappear indefinitely while unelected staff members assure everybody he's working behind the scenes and he's still with it. Beshear writes, even the attending physician's written statement doesn't discuss your actual condition. Can you speak? Can you reason? Can you carry out the duties of senator? And Beshear ends with a very simple demand, which I agree with completely. Directly, verbally address Kentucky. Provide proof that you are of capacity to serve here. And he says that Senate Majority Leader John Thune should demand the same transparency. Now, there's a couple other interesting elements to this. It is actually better for Democrats politically for Mitch McConnell to be gone all the way up until the next Senate is sworn in and his replacement, because remember, he's not running for re-election, his replacement is sworn in. The longer Mitch McConnell can't vote and the longer that he remains a senator who isn't voting, the better it is for Democrats. Now, Republicans were still able to pass some dog crap bills this week, even without him. But I'd rather have Republicans with one fewer vote than one more vote. Why not? At the same time, there are a lot of people demanding that Andy Beshear could do more. And there is sort of a growing idea that even though the law has been, well, my chair is collapsing. Look at how low I am in the shot now. There is I got to raise this thing. Jeez. There is a growing anger with Beshear saying, if this were reversed, do you think a Republican governor wouldn't have tried to appoint someone to replace a Democratic senator after 40 something days? There's a movement that Andy Beshear should just appoint a Democrat and see what happens. They'd probably lose in the courts, but why not? Go ahead and try it. I do think it's important to remember that Andy Beshear is limited by the law as to what he can do. Before August 4th, he can't call a special election. After August 4th, he must call a special election. And by the change that Republicans made, he is not allowed to appoint anybody. But there is a legal argument that he should try and just see what happens. So I believe the best immediate outcome for Democrats is McConnell remains in office, but he doesn't vote again. And that cuts them short of a vote. On the other hand, people do deserve the truth. And whatever the plan is as far as his resignation or not, it would be great to know, have these pictures been staged? Is he incapacitated? Now, the people I've spoken to off the record who are involved with Kentucky politics have said, we don't really know any more than the public does, but we suspect that his condition is far more, he's alive, but his condition is far more serious than has been acknowledged. Now, the request is almost comically modest that is being made. Just put Mitch in front of a camera, ask him a couple questions, allow Kentuckians to see, can this guy even speak right now? The picture proves, if you believe that the pictures are real and current, that he sat upright for a second. That's all the picture proves. A statement issued by staff proves staff can write a statement. It doesn't really prove anything about Mitch McConnell. Neither proves he has the capacity to serve in the US Senate. I would love to know whether he has that capacity. And I think politics aside, we deserve to know. That August 3rd, August 4th deadline is coming very soon. It'll be next week, and we'll see what happens if and when we get to that point. We have a phenomenal bonus show for you today. Rand Paul has released Anthony Fauci's diary from the pandemic era. And Fauci is testifying before Congress at this moment as I am recording this show. Senator Lindsey Graham, or maybe it hasn't started. Lindsey Graham was followed by a documentary crew at the end of his life. And there were some interesting discoveries that they made before the sudden death of Lindsey Graham. That and much more will be on today's bonus show. If you have not yet pre-ordered my forthcoming book, Pay Attention, please do. We have a limited number of signed copies remaining. You can find out about it at davidpakman.com/attention. And if you pre-order the book in any format, audiobook if you prefer, Kindle if you prefer, I'm not in my studio right now, but I have the first ever printed copy of this book on my shelf in the studio. Someone is going to get that copy. All you need to do to be considered in that raffle is email a screenshot of your pre-order to info@davidpakman.com. Identity theft usually does not start with some movie version of how hacking takes place. It's boring details that are easy to find. Your full name, current and former addresses, phone number, date of birth, employment history. If you put a bunch of that stuff together, people can then start to figure out, do I know your security answers to security questions? Can I open accounts in your name? This is why our sponsor Incogni exists. Incogni works to remove your personal info from the internet, places like people search sites, online directories, commercial databases. Incogni starts by removing your info from hundreds of the most well-known ones and will follow up until it's done. And if you Google yourself and find your info anywhere outside of this database of hundreds of these sites, you can submit a link to Incogni and they will do what's called a custom removal. All of these processes are independently verified by Deloitte, and you can get 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/Pakman with the code Pakman. The link is in the description.